This is Campus News, reporting the top stories from colleges and universities.
Next on Campus News.
A fight for rights. Students in the region gather in Minneapolis to protest a recent state Supreme Court ruling.
Two NDSU colleges battle to raise money and awareness for an alumni in need.
For this pair of MSUM tennis players, the line between teammates and family members are one and the same.
From Los Angeles to Moorhead, find out what brought this singer-songwriter back to MSUM for a second time. Good morning and welcome to Campus News. I'm Alex Larson.
And I'm Eric George. After a recent Supreme Court case involving a sexual assault, two college students organized a women's rights protest at the Capitol.
Reporter Ashley Walker went there to talk to students who are passionate about the cause.
I'm here today in Minnesota State Capitol in St. Paul, where this crowd behind me is protesting a recent Supreme Court case ruling. In this case, there was a victim and a man accused of rape. The judge decided to rule against the victim because she willingly got herself intoxicated. This is the result. People across the state decided to come and support the protest.
It'd be a lot easier if we could just teach our boys not to rape versus teaching our daughters not to wear certain clothes or get drunk or walk alone. It's kind of sad.
As the peaceful protest continued, those opposed to the gathering arrived. The result? A fight.
There were some people who started speaking up over the speakers who were organized to speak, and the cops came about 5 minutes later. I watched them. They waited till the whole crowd had gathered to push these people out who were disrupting the natural flow of conversation, and then somebody was getting her wallet out in order to hand it to the cops. They're asking for her name. She was compliant. She's also a minor.
Eventually, state troopers intervened and let her go, to most everyone's relief.
Like, that's like, it makes me feel so... What was the reason for putting you in cuffs?
To detain me.
Although there were a few mishaps and a medical emergency, everyone involved remained safe. Protest organizers and college students Kenna Groshin and Madison Priestley said they couldn't believe how successful the protest was.
We are in support of House File 707. It's something that's going to help change the language of the statute so these kind of rulings can happen.
So happy. This is all we wanted. Just everyone out here supporting each other, lifting each other up. This bill is so important and it must be passed.
They both say they hope to hold more protests in the future to fight injustice. With photographer Xavier Mitchell, Ashley Walker, Campus News.
A bill looking to strengthen consent laws was being drafted as Women's History Month came to a close. The Livingston Lord Library at Minnesota State University Moorhead held a showcase for Women's History Month. March's exhibit focuses on the suffrage timeline along with other exhibits to give people the chance to learn more about voting rights and the history behind some important women on campus.
We really wanted students to see themselves reflected in that ongoing fight, right? So the timeline goes from 1848 all the way up through 2020.
Director Bizignani hopes this exhibit will shine a light on some of the women who made an impact on history, but were not fully recognized for their achievements.
North Dakota lawmakers proposed a bill that would impact colleges and universities that are partnered with abortion-affiliated organizations. The bill would withhold funds from any institution that partners with organizations like Planned Parenthood and also financially penalize most sex education programs. North Dakota State University's president opposes the bill on the basis of academic freedom and the First Amendment. NDSU estimates that the bill could lead to budget cuts of up to $2.8 million for the university. Supporters argue the bill is in line with the state code. NDSU students came out to sit, eat, and learn more about a worldwide issue.
I went over to the second annual Hunger Banquet to find out more. In the Great Plains Ballroom, campus attractions invited students to sit down and open up discussions about world hunger, poverty, and the presence it has right here in our own community.
We get little things, and then you text that name to that number, and they text you a little paragraph about your character. So,
my character, he was a mayor. His name is Manuel from Peru.
I'm playing Sabina. She's a mother of 4 from Peru.
The characters assigned to students determined where they were to sit at the banquet. When dinner was served, all groups got different portions and items. High-income people were served spaghetti and garlic bread. Middle income then walked their way to the back to pick up their beans and rice. Low income was then left to go get their plate of rice.
It felt really awkward and I felt out of place. I didn't really want to eat because it just didn't feel really fair. Yeah, didn't really enjoy it.
But students say they were able to learn a lot from this presentation.
I didn't realize that making like $8,000 made you high income for a majority of the world. Like that's the average it takes to be high class if you average it out throughout the world. And that's horrifying realistically that, you know, that's less than I make working part-time in college.
I learned that there's so many people, even in this community, that don't really have access to food and good food because of the minimum wage, and what we're making now is not enough.
It's easy to think of hunger as a worldwide issue, but to think of it really in our Fargo and Moorhead communities is really difficult. So understanding what we can do to help with that is really awesome.
Campus attractions didn't keep students hungry, though. To-go food was available at the end for everyone who attended. NDSU's volunteer network is hoping to host another hunger banquet next year. Universities across the country can expect additional funding from the recently signed American Rescue Plan. Nonprofit institutions are set to receive about $36 billion in funding. Half of this funding must be spent on emergency aid to students. The Department of Education hasn't put out specific guidelines on how the funds will be spent. Some colleges will spend money to close budget gaps for COVID-related expenses and for transportation services. The stimulus money students receive from the universities is just in time for spring break.
Last year, students were forced to become online learners after vacation. But what happened this year? Reporter Ty Schonert talks with 3 students who traveled for the break.
College students and spring break. The 4 words which at any other time in the last decade wouldn't cause the controversy that it is now. Abby Reitz is a sophomore at NDSU and is one of the many Fargo Moorhead students who traveled during the break.
Past spring breaks, you know, it's been a lot more like vacation, like this one was more just like spending time with family, like chilling. You're not out and about as much. You're just really like staying in.
3 students in the Fargo Moorhead community traveled to 3 different locations for their vacations.
So I went to see my grandparents in Connecticut.
My girlfriend and I went to Glacier National Park.
I went with a couple of friends and we decided on Miami.
Although they had different experiences, one thing that they all agreed on is safety. Those who went to more populated areas took extra precautions to stay safe, while some opted for the great outdoors, especially Phil Melro, who was glad for the quiet in Montana.
And especially seeing in the news of Miami, where there's just people in the streets and on the beaches with tons of people, and they were declared like a national emergency.
Someone who opted for a busier break was Crystal Dang. She said she left before a curfew was set in Miami, but she still experienced some of the chaos.
There was some violence happening out on like the main streets of Miami. Now, thankfully, I didn't have to experience that.
Spring break this year has been widely debated, with a rise in COVID-19 cases across the country due to the potential rise in exposure. Some colleges preemptively canceled this year's spring break, a decision that Abby strongly disagrees with.
I think even if you're not traveling, just like a time to have a break is so crucial for students. I understand like wanting to limit the risk, but I feel like you're like taking away something from students that is really beneficial to them.
College students and spring break. 2 of the many things that students hope will be back to normal again by next year. With photographer Marissa Shyok, Ty Schonert, Campus News.
Since March 22nd, the number of cases at NDSU has jumped from 8 to 69, an increase of over 860%. NDSU is trying a new approach to get students tested for COVID-19. The NDSU Residence Hall Association decided to start giving out free items to all students who come in to get tested. The rewards students have received include NDSU face masks, Caribou coffee drinks, and chips and queso from a restaurant on campus.
NDSU took a great stand on how to keep the campus healthy, especially when students are going home for the weekends. Especially we're nervous about spring break of where everyone's traveling and how we can better get students involved in those testing events afterwards.
Placing these incentives for receiving COVID-19 tests has nearly doubled the number of NDSU students coming in to get tested.
As students prepare for finals, one group at MSUM is working towards a different goal, a concert. The group has started back up this spring following a break due to COVID. Reporter Bryant Stenberg takes us to a rehearsal to show us what they are doing to prepare.
Music is making a return to the Center for the Arts at MSUM. as the orchestra is preparing for their upcoming concert. For senior cellist Peter Nelson, it is fun to be able to play with his classmates again.
I think we've all been missing playing in ensembles through these hard times. So just to see everybody with their instruments and making great music is great to see again.
But the fun doesn't come without changes to keep the group safe.
We communicate a lot with our faces, especially as musicians, whether it's the conductor trying to express something to a musician or somebody looking across the room and expressing something musically. We're missing that aspect a little bit.
For orchestra director Doug Neal, there is one part that he thinks is toughest for the students.
It's not so much of a challenge in this room because we get reflected sound off the walls. What I'm worried about is what it's going to be like when we're on the stage at Hanson and we don't get as much reflected sound back.
Despite challenges of COVID, the orchestra continues to move forward, hoping to be able to perform this semester.
We could have up to 250 people in the audience. I hope everybody in the orchestra invites their family and friends.
For Nelson, this concert contains more than him just playing music. He also conducts one piece as well, the Andante Festivo by Sibelius.
And I have really great memories of playing this piece. It's just full of so many great uses of the strings.
But for now, the orchestra is waiting and hoping the semester can end on a high note. With photographer Hallie Nottage, Bryant Stenberg, Campus News.
The orchestra will perform their concert in the Hanson Theater at MSUM on April 29th. As more people get vaccinated, colleges and universities are preparing to open up their campuses for the fall of 2021. Restrictions being loosened means more in-person classes and less social distancing. MSUM will offer 75% of its classes to be in person this fall, while it is at 32% for the current semester. MSUM leadership says though this is exciting for students, they know the pandemic is not over. As they move forward, they will continue to keep students' successes and safety in mind. After 2 semesters of virtual graduations, NDSU recently announced plans to hold its spring commencement in person. The university will hold 2 separate commencement ceremonies on Saturday, May 15th in the Fargo Dome. Students will be limited to 4 guests per person, and all guests will be required to wear a mask and follow social distancing protocols. NDSU alumna Bailey Roth, who graduated last semester, has mixed feelings about the decision.
And I am happy for the students that they are able to get the opportunity that we didn't have. I'm just not sure that it's the right time.
MSUM is planning on holding its spring commencement virtually.
The Dr. Seuss books are falling into controversy over what some are calling racist imagery and wording. Reporter Grace Magstad talked with members of the Fargo Moorhead community and educators at MSUM on their opinions of taking these books off of the shelves and out of the classrooms.
With the Dr. Seuss Publishing Company taking 6 books off their shelves, certain places like the Fargo Public Library think that could cause more harm than good in our community. Even though the Dr. Seuss Publishing Company has stopped producing these books, the 6 books will stay on the shelves at Fargo Public Library.
Removing them just to get rid of controversy doesn't end controversy. It just makes it harder to have those conversations.
The Dr. Seuss Publishing Company states that these books, including To Think I Saw That on Mulberry Street, have used hurtful and wrong imagery of people, and because of that, classrooms nationwide have made the decision to take these books out of their classrooms. Educators like Barry Olson also have his own fears about taking these books completely out of the education system.
I think we're missing a teachable moment for some kids by eliminating them, and that's could play a negativity in society because they won't understand what was wrong with it.
President of the NDSU Black Student Association, Kayla Jones, also has her opinions on removing the books completely off the shelves.
But I think erasing it completely isn't helpful because if we don't have record of things like this, then they'll repeat themselves.
While keeping the Dr. Seuss books in classrooms could be beneficial, Kayla Jones says that they may not be appropriate for all ages.
I don't really see the purpose in having them then in preschool if they have harmful images and things like that. Whether the kids get it or not, there's no reason to really have it then.
With photographer Jenna Scott, Grace Makestead, Campus News.
MSUM teaching and learning faculty member Barry Olson advises teachers to start conversations with their students on why these books can be harmful rather than removing them completely. NDSU students, faculty, and staff can enjoy a movie without leaving their rooms. An event called Movie Access is available on April 16th and 17th. The movie that we'll be showing is called All My Life. This can be accessed by going to the Campus Attractions tab on the NDSU website and clicking the link located under the movie. The pandemic has shut down a lot of activity on MSUM's campus, but at the university's Oceanarium, the staff has been taking care of their underwater friends.
From clownfish to stingrays, members of the Oceanarium Club have been keeping themselves busy during the craziness of COVID. This student-led organization is creating new exhibits and bringing in new livestock constantly. One of the most recent exhibits show how marine life have used the ocean pollution epidemic to their advantage.
What we have in here is a bunch of live rock on one side to symbolize coral reef, rocky ecosystem, and you see all these fun little fish swimming in and out of it. But then over here what we have is a bunch of trash. And what it's showing is how these animals interact with the trash to make homes, the same as they would with any piece of live rock.
Students can also put their knowledge to practice through their own studies.
The research lab for anyone that wants to do any type of aquatic research.
Even though this is a student-run club, they have ran into some problems surrounding their interaction with the community.
There's hardly anybody here, so the school groups that would otherwise have come here have not, and that's a major, audience for this facility are these outside groups to come and learn about aspects of marine biology. So not only is that our audience, that's also our income source.
The marine biology students have thankfully still gotten the opportunity to keep some new livestock coming in and to get exhibits ready for the next upcoming year. With photographer Jenna Scott, Grace Makestead, Campus News.
The Oceanarium Club hopes to recruit students from all majors in the upcoming fall semester.
MSUM's annual Speak Up event is designed to help motivate students through music and life stories. Former and current students go on stage to talk about aspects of campus life. Because of COVID-19 restrictions, students had to be spaced out while being in the audience, and there was a limit on how many could attend. Some attendees said the presentation on men's mental health moved and inspired them. Speak Up is expected to return to MSUM's ballroom again next year.
NDSU students banded together to help an alumna who is facing a serious disease. And this isn't even the first time they've done this.
Reporter Chase Scher has the story on how these students are helping out one of their own.
Here at the College of Construction Management and Engineering, the ambassadors for the program begin to count the change that was donated from the day.
I texted a bunch of people I know to donate.
The money is for the 10th annual Battle of the Senses fundraiser. The fundraiser is a competition between the College of Engineering and the College of Health Professions. Anna Scarpel, an ambassador for the Health Professions Department, talked more about this.
Back 10 years ago, our advisors got together and they thought, what is something we can do together as two clubs and work together for the good of our community? And so they came up with this idea, and we've been doing it ever since.
This year, the Battle of the Senses is looking to benefit NDSU graduate Jordan Meskin, who is battling a rare form of cancer known as RMS.
Even after, I'm a couple of years out of NDSU and still feel so connected to the NDSU communities. I think that's really special about NDSU.
Jordan is currently living in Minneapolis, working as a civil engineer. Both departments are hoping that they can help Jordan in her fight against cancer as she undergoes rounds of chemotherapy. With photographer Paige Gifford, Chase Scher, Campus News.
The College of Engineering and Management raised just over $3,000, while the College of Health has raised almost $1,500. And now we turn it over to Jordan Austin for a look at this week's sports.
So Jordan, you've got a story about the MSUM tennis team?
That's true. They're doing pretty well this season. That could be because MSUM women's tennis team has welcomed 2 new players this season. Reporter Annika Bjorgi tells us why there's more to their partnership than meets the eye.
You may feel as though you are seeing doubles, but actually, it is twin sisters Miranda and Michaela Grechin. Michaela describes the relationship she shares with her sister and how it has contributed to their accomplishments in tennis.
I like playing with my sister because, twins, we have kind of that twin telepathy. So I know what she's doing, I know her habits. And it's also fun because all the coaches usually like to see sisters, and in tennis, the Bryan brothers have kind of like set that tone for like twins and doubles, so it's really cool to just see that.
Miranda believes that their hard work is paying off.
I'm pretty proud of my success. I think we're all doing pretty well here this year and in my previous years, so I'm excited to see what is coming up.
Head coach Jason Thiner expresses the ways Michaela and Miranda have been a part of the team's success this season.
Oh, they've been a great addition to the team. They've been a very solid members of the middle of our lineup. And just their overall attitude and that addition to the team has been great this season.
Miranda and Michaela are looking forward to doubling up for one last season. Photographer Ty Schoenert, Annika Bjorgi, Campus News.
The tennis team's next game will be held today against Minnesota State University Mankato. Athletic directors across the country are raising concerns over the potential for student-athlete payment. In a series of polls put out by the Associated Press, 357 athletic directors responded. 74% believe player compensation will lead to cuts in other sports, and over 75% believe the payment itself could go against Title IX. Some athletic directors believe it would hinder Title IX as the March Madness revenue goes towards funding less popular women's sports. These polls come after a series of testimonies in front of the Supreme Court regarding the issue. He has witnessed hundreds of basketball, football, and track events at MSUM. Now, the longtime athletic director is leaving after 14 years at the university. For as long as Doug Peters has been the athletic director for the Dragons, helping student athletes achieve their dreams after college is what has motivated him throughout his career.
With social media today, and I've been here long enough that student athletes from the very beginning of my time at MSUM are now in their 30s and doing the things that they want to do with their lives. And it's just awesome to have been interacting with them while they were in college and then actually seeing them out there doing what they wanted to do post-college.
Chad Markison is now serving as interim athletic director until a permanent replacement is found. MSUM student athlete Nadir Youssef, who's known on campus for holding track records, is just as active within MSUM's community. Reporter Breck Stutz went to talk with Nadir on his contributions to campus outside of athletics.
A two-time NSIC champion and an All-NSIC honors recipient for 2 years in a row, student-athlete Nadir Youssef has thrived in long-distance running. Alongside his many notable achievements, Nadir also holds 2 collegiate records, completing a 5K run in 14 minutes 18 seconds and a 10K run in 29 minutes and 58 seconds. As active as he is on the track, Nadir is just as active on campus, contributing to a number of community services.
So as an ambassador, we basically are the face of the campus when families and prospective students come visit our campus. So we're the first people they get to interact with before they go and meet their admissions rep, maybe their faculty, appointment, all that kind of stuff. So we get to show them around campus, share a little bit about our experience.
Alongside his role as Dragon Ambassador, Nadir is also a prominent member of Dragon Stand Together, a group devoted to promoting social and racial justice.
We're getting together maybe once or twice a month to kind of talk about what's going on, how we could make provide a safe space for our student athletes to get together and have some of those dialogues, because there's a lot of things that happen in the summer and it needed to be addressed and brought to students' attention, and we felt like it was needed for us to create that space.
Setting records in athletics and contributing invaluable support to the community, Nadir is always on his feet. With photographer Jeb Dunnick, Breck Stutz, Campus News Sports.
Nadir is preparing for the upcoming NCAA Outdoor Championships, which begin on May 27th. With the completion of the indoor track season, the Dragons have shifted their focus to the outdoor season. The MSUM track team had its first meet of the outdoor season last Friday. The Dragons opened the season against Concordia, North Dakota State, and the University of North Dakota at NDSU. The team finished with a number of top finishers on both the men's and women's teams. This success has Coach Trevor Berry excited to better the performance in the coming season.
That's coming from indoor to outdoor. It kind of makes it easier to train on the bends. Things that it's much more wider. So usually the times are faster. With being our COVID is such an issue right now. Definitely the ventilation is going to assist.
Next on the schedule for the Dragons is a home meet on April 15th. Now that they're outside, there's less COVID restrictions.
Well, hopefully that continues.
Thank you, Jordan. Up-and-coming artist Cecilia Grace returned to MSUM after a performance before the pandemic.
Reporter Ashley Walker tells us why the Dragon Entertainment Group wanted to bring back the popular artist.
Self-made singer and songwriter from Baltimore, Maryland, Cecilia Grace was invited back to MSUM to perform her original songs and popular covers to students and staff.
This is my third time flying into the Fargo airport, and it just kind of makes it feel like cozy, you know what I mean? Like a lot of states I go to or cities I go to, if I'm not familiar with it, it's a little bit hard to relax, but right here I feel like I know the area a little bit better now that I've been here a bunch of times.
With her astounding first performance at MSUM a few years ago, Dragon Entertainment says it was a no-brainer to bring her back for another event.
She had such a great reception, and she's such a wonderful person to work with. I just thought it would be great to have her back again for this spring.
While some students were hearing Cecilia's talent for the first time, there were a few students that have been following her for quite a while.
Yeah, I've met Cecilia like probably 4 or 5 times actually, so yeah. I used to follow her on YouTube back in like 6th grade. She actually played a song for me.
As a thank you for the support, Cecilia signed Allie's poster, then chatted with others who wanted to get to know her. Cecilia Grace hopes to come back when she can. With photographer Devin Elliott, Ashley Walker, Campus News.
You can find her songs on all music platforms and her Instagram at Cecilia Grace Music. And that's it for this edition of Campus News.
We leave you with more music from Cecilia Grace.
Thank you for joining us, and have a great week.
Campus News is produced by the Television News Workshop in the School of Communication and Journalism at Minnesota State University Moorhead in cooperation with Prairie Public Television.